Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Tom Schlater with this week's Tom's Take. Going to get a little personal here, a little bit into my personal life and what's been going on here over the last several weeks, and especially over the last few days. Have Has anyone ever asked you what would seem to be a very simple question, but yet it is so profound and so eye-opening and so troubling and so irritating that you can't quit thinking about the question? Well, I'll get to the question here in just a moment. Matter of fact, I'll lead into it with this story. Many times, my wife Kay and I will go shopping, and we'll go into a large store, a Walmart or someplace like that, one of the super Walmarts or a large grocery store, and I'll head off and get something that I was wanting to get, and she'll start going down her aisles. And it's always amazing to me how quick she can move through the aisles of a store, because I'm thinking, okay, I was gone for maybe 30 seconds. She should be in that first aisle or that second aisle. And I find her in the fifth aisle, and she's already got all sorts of things in the basket. Well, sometimes I can't find her. Yesterday we were shopping at a store, and she was just a little bit shorter than all of the display things, and so I couldn't see her. But I also knew she didn't have her phone with her, so I was really kind of up the creek without a paddle. But usually in those stores, I'll get out my phone and I'll text her or I'll call her and say, "Hey, where are you?" And she'll say, "Oh, let me see, I'm on aisle 7, or I'm by this and by that." And I said, "Okay, I'm headed that way." "Where are you?" Well, yesterday, one of my good friends, she's on our council, Teresa Estrada, she's down in our Glory region, which was our mission region, so in San Antonio. And she often will do this to me, where she will, and her team will get a prophetic word, some kind of an exhortation for me. And I really appreciate it. I mean, it's always been right on. And she called yesterday morning. I had just finished the prayer call, and she says, "Hey, if you've got few minutes, I need to talk to you." And I called her back, and I'm just thinking, okay, I wonder what this is about. And she said, "Well, we got together with prayer, and the Lord was revealing some things to us, and He just said that I had to ask this question of you on the Lord's behalf." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Tom, where are you?" Now, hearing it from the Lord via Teresa Estrada had a little bit different effect than me trying to find Kay in a super Walmart. My first reaction, I was a little bit anxious or troubled, but not really. I mean, just it was like, well, that's an interesting question. And she didn't give me any more detail. She just said, "That's what the Lord told me to say or to ask you." And our conversation lasted just a minute or two on the phone, and that was it. So I just immediately started saying, "Well, Lord, here I am. Why are you asking me, where are you?" And so I had to start pondering that. I had to start figuring out in my spirit, why are you asking me that, Lord? Matter of fact, it troubled me at the beginning because the very famous question asked of that by the Lord Himself was of Adam in the garden back in Genesis. "Adam, where are you?" See, he had been used to walking and talking with Adam and Eve. They had been totally infused with His glory. They were fully aware of His presence. They were hearing His voice. They knew everything about Him, and He knew everything about them. They were so in oneness with each other, just as Jesus was one with His Father. But that was before the fall. And after they had disobeyed God's command about the tree in the center of the garden, now all of a sudden, all of that has been ripped away, and they see themselves naked. They cover themselves up as best they can. They're troubled. They're now hiding from the one who would walk with them. And Obviously, God has not changed his position or his desire for them. So he's simply saying, where are you? Now, it's interesting because God asking that question already knew the answer. He knows everything. He knows our thoughts before we say them. He knows our thoughts before we think them. He knows everything about us. That's what's amazing about his love for us, is that he knows everything about us. He knows all of our thoughts in and out. He knows all of our quirks. He knows all of our warts. He knows all of our good things, our bad things, and yet he passionately pursues us. He comes after us with his love. And when he finds us in a situation to where maybe we're going through some trying times or going through some situations that we're not quite sure which way to go or what to do, or maybe we're just tired, and he says, hey, Tom, or your name, where are you? Where are you? So that question stuck with me all morning and all throughout the day. Because when the Lord asks you a question like that, it's not like, well, God, you know where I am. Here I am right here. I'm in my house. This is my address. You know exactly where I am. But that's not why he was asking it. He knew that. He wanted to know if I knew where I was. Now, in some subsequent texting with Teresa actually gave me the freedom and said, hey, she prayed. First off, she emailed me, she called me back, but I didn't hear the phone, so she left a message, which was a prayer for me, that God would lead me through the process of answering this question. And so I texted back to her and said, I am pondering it. There are some things that I am trying to evaluate right now. And then she was kind enough to say, hey, if it just means you're tired, because we were all sensing in our prayers that you're very tired, it's okay just to say, Lord, I'm tired. Well, that was part of it. We'd had a very long weekend, a lot of activities. We had 7 inches of rain on Saturday, plus Kay was at an event where she was selling her products, and that was all really well done. It all went well, but after all of that, with the moving and packing and everything else, it's just a little bit tiring. And then Sunday was a full day. We had our services, but then we found out that part of our electricity in the building was out. It usually gets taken care of right away, but was not. So I had to do my sermon, and we had to do the whole message without any electrical help, except for one little amplifier on the person at the piano. But it was a powerful day in God's presence. Matter of fact, he was bringing us back to the song, The Heart of Worship, bringing us back to simplicity, bringing us back to what is really important. Well, after service, we then had to start getting ready for our annual Seder meal that evening. So I was active all afternoon when I usually would like to take a nap, but we got everything ready. But still, we didn't have power in 90% of our building, but at least we did where we were going to have our meal that evening in our fellowship hall. Our electrical company was out, and they had already talked with us, and they said, hey, we're going to have to turn off all your electricity to the church. And I said, you can't do that. We've got a special meal tonight here. Can you wait for us to finish that before you do that? And they said, yeah, we'll do that. So they had to come back at 7:30 to do that. Well, we did our Seder, which again was a powerful time, and I'm going to mention something about that here in just a moment. But then I felt like I needed to stay up later because they were working right outside our backyard at our utility pole, and I kept on checking with them because I didn't know if they were going to need me to do something at the church or whatever else. And finally, about 10:30, it was almost 11, we go to bed, and they're still working. They didn't finish until about 12:30 in the morning. Got all our electricity back. And then I would think I would sleep all night, but I didn't sleep all night. I'm sorry, I told you I was going to get a little personal here. I woke up again around 5:30, got up, tried to take a little bit more napping, that wouldn't happen, and I'm just worn out. I looked at my phone and looked at different apps on my phone, and I realized without hardly leaving the church the day before, I had walked 10,000 steps. I'm thinking, no wonder I'm tired. And then we had a very powerful prayer that morning. And then Teresa, on behalf of the Lord, says, "Where are you, Tom?" "I'm tired, Lord." But you see, he had been working with me on that question without asking the question for actually several days and even several weeks. Because he was telling me, you need to pay attention to this Passover season, which we are in. Because I'm going to do a complete shift in everything that you're doing. I'm going to shift you around and realign you. And you need to pay close attention to where you are and who you are in me in this season. Keep it simple, Tom. So I've been working on that, just simplifying my life with the Lord, getting rid of extracurricular things that I don't need to do all the time, and just spend more time with Him. So in the process of also dealing with just being tired, in the midst of being tired, I just rested Monday. We did some things around the house that we needed to get done, but I just rested. And in the process of resting, he showed me some of the realignment stuff that he's doing in my life. And I don't need to get into that detail. There's some realignment apostolically with certain connections that I have around the state and around the nation. Nothing dramatic, but enough shifting to where I need to be in the right place at the right time doing what God wants me to do. And I couldn't figure that out. It's not up to me to figure that out. It's up for me to get into the womb of His presence, get close to Him, be simplified in Him, get back to the heart of worship, get back to what the true meaning is of Passover, and then find out what He needs me to do. Now, if you're not listening carefully, I'm saying He's asking you this question too. You see, it started with Passover and with Seder because we've been doing a Seder now for 36 years. Our first one was actually 37 years ago in Israel. And then we've held one every year since then. And I was about ready to hold it during March, when we would traditionally celebrate Thursday, Good Friday, Resurrection Sunday. And as I was starting to plan that out, I'd even put it on the calendar. The Lord said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting ready for our Seder." And He said, "You need to get in right alignment." And I said, "Oh, I know what you mean." Because you see, it's a leap year, or there's 2 Adars. Those are the last months of the Hebrew year, and there's just usually 1 Adar. But on this year, there were 2, which means that Passover shifted into April for us on the Hebrew calendar, away from the traditional structure of Resurrection Day, or I don't like even calling it Easter anymore. So I knew God was shifting things. And then He said, "I don't want you to use the traditional Seder service that you've used all these years. It's a very lengthy one, very detailed in all the intricacies of what's on the Seder plate and everything else." He had me actually write a new service just for us, a shorter version, very simplified, very focused on just the meaning of what this is all about, to pass over not only out of Egypt, but to pass over with Jesus there in Jerusalem, and now passing over with Him in this chaotic season that we're living in. And all of this was pointing to this question yesterday: where are you? And I know I can confidently answer Him right now: Lord, I'm right here, and I'm with you, and you're with me. And I need you to ponder that question as well now. Where are you? It's important for us to answer that question in this season, because if we can't answer, "I am right here, Lord, anchored to you, and I'm not going to allow any of the outside influences or religious or political traditions or mindsets or opinions to affect who I am in this hour, I need to hear from you. See, that's what happened with Adam. When they disobeyed, they started hearing all the interference. And Jesus, God, was still saying, hey, Adam, where are you? We need to communicate here. We need to get together again. So that's where we are today. Now I want to close with just this tidbit. This morning, another good friend of mine, Jimmy Dushek, who is from the Plateau region, or the High Places of God region, out in San Angelo, led our prayer call this morning, and he was talking about leaven. The leaven that is not supposed to be in the bread of Passover. And I just want to share this one thing that the Lord revealed to me in the midst of the call. And Jimmy revealed it too. When you put yeast into the dough, it causes it to puff up. It causes to look different than just what it's supposed to look like. And God, in this season of Passover, is saying, no leaven, no puffing up, no additives, just me. The purity and sincerity of who I am in you and who you are in me. So I ask the question again, where are you? Go spend some time with the Lord, and He will reveal to you the tremendous love, passion, direction, and plan that He has for each one of you. God's blessing to you, and happy Passover.